Let me know if you can see me. Put that over there, this over here. Oh. Oh, can you guys see me? Can you guys hear me? Can you see me? Let me know if you can hear my voice, how the audio level is. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. I want to make sure the audio is working. Cool beans. Awesome sauce. I'm the only person in the world that still says awesome sauce. Let me know where you guys and girls are from. Type your country and your state and your city. I want to see where everyone's from and your name. Cool. Sweet. Charlotte, North Carolina. Nicholas. Do 360 Cherokees. Norway, nice. I have a friend from Norway, Bergsvein, and at Furman University. Argentina, Bergen, Seattle, Germany, Philadelphia, Jersey, Russia. Wow, all over the place. South Africa, Canada, France. Hey, we got 2 people from Montreal. That's awesome. Idaho, Denmark, awesome. Texas. Spain, geez, you guys are from everywhere. Georgia, Kavkaz. 15 minutes, yeah. I know you read. Buffalo, New York. Awesome sauce. There is awesome sauce there. Buffalo sauce. I'm sorry, that was terrible. I know, isn't that crazy? Like, I still can't... I mean, I was born in the technology age, but I can't get over the fact that it's recording me and sending it out everywhere across the globe. Instantaneous feedback loop. Like, isn't that just crazy? Like, it's never gonna not be mind-blowing. Yeah, you can start giving questions now, but I told everybody I would start at 5 o'clock, so I'm going to kind of wait and answer things at 5. That way people, who show up at 5 don't miss anything. But yeah, I would definitely prepare questions, but you might want to save them, otherwise I might miss them. I wonder if there's like a way that you could, because I know with some live stream services, there's a way that you could, oh, absolutely, Killy. Lag. Hopefully lag won't be too bad, but my internet seems to be pretty stable. Yeah, just keep me updated how things are, and I can repeat things if need. Video output. Ooh. Let's see. Video output. Oh. Let me see if I can fix this. It says video output low. YouTube is not receiving experience buffering. Let's see if I can fix this. I wonder if that's my internet. Okay, as long as you can hear me. Let's see. Oop. Oh. Let's see. Let me see if I can make it better. Output. Ah. Oh. Blech. Dang it. Oh, is it better? Is it okay? Is the audio okay? Okay, well, as long as you guys can hear me, it should be okay. But just let me know if it gets unwatchable. Don't move. Won't lag. That's funny. Yeah, no, I don't have anything. I don't have anything prepared. I'm just gonna be answering questions and probably going on rabbit trails as usual. Except finally, it's a format appropriate for rabbit trails. Okay, cool, sweet. Cool. Hopefully it'll stay that way. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. What should I play? Tell me what I should play. Harmonic minor? Oh, you were pointing out harmonic minor. That's funny. Game of Thrones. No, that's actually one of the the few TV shows that I have just not watched for some reason. I've heard the music is great. I've heard that the book it's based on is great. But I don't know. I wish I could have more time to watch shows and watch movies and play video games. But all I can make time for is Breath of the Wild. Because I'm just so busy writing music all the time. Someone wants Headbook's theme. Try to do harmony on a melodica. Unless you're Jacob Collier. All right, cool. It's about 5 o'clock. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't believe how many people are already logged in. That's crazy. Before we start, I just want to say that I am just so in awe of the fact that I'm at 8,000 subscribers now. Because when I first made my first YouTube video a while back, I didn't expect anything to come of it. So, I can't express how much I'm appreciative of your guys' support and your subscriptions and your likes and your comments and the conversations we have on YouTube. It's just an amazing community. So thank you so much for that. It's here's to 8,004. All right. Okay. So yeah, do more Let's Write videos. Oh, I plan on doing that. My problem is I have too many series simultaneously going on. I have harmonic relativity. I've got Let's Write Music. I've got How to Write Like John Williams. So that's my fault for opening up too many series. So inevitably it's going to take a while for me to get to all of them. But I plan on finishing everything at some point in my life. See, do I write every day? Yeah, I do write every day. Absolutely. And I don't necessarily have a goal in mind, unless, if I'm having to meet a deadline or something, then I kind of have to space things out. And because for me, it's not necessarily a matter of because deadlines don't really bother me, but it's just a matter of how creative you can be, because if you're working on a particular project and you know that it has to be done in a week, then you can sort of rely on your craft to come up with things that may not be your best musical work, but it gets the job done. You know what I mean? You can pull out progressions or you can pull out kind of melodic devices, but obviously you want to try and be as creative as possible. So if I have plenty of time to work on a project, then I'm going to really try and mull over the thematic material and try to come up with the best thing that I possibly can come up with and take advantage of that time. So, but yeah, definitely, I would say, yeah, I definitely try and write unless I'm like on vacation or something, but I usually still bring, you know, manuscript paper with me so I can kind of write things down. But yeah, I definitely write music every day, and I think it's a good idea to get into the practice of writing music every day. And also, and I would say, give room in your schedule to just experiment, because if you're working on a piece, you're kind of hesitant to kind of toy around with ideas because you feel like that's not working. Whereas if you can just sort of sit around, whether it's the piano noodling or whether it's kind of practicing writing counterpoint or 4-part writing or coming up with a new orchestral texture that doesn't necessarily have to be a part of the piece, but you're just kind of messing around and exploring new textures, I think those kind of brainstorming moments, if you kind of schedule those for yourself, you know, that's really, really good and really healthy, because, you know, when you are working on a piece of music, then you can kind of take those ideas and implement them. And kind of like I've said before, there have been lots of times where I've had an old theme that I toyed around with on the piano for hours and kind of found this theme, and then I, you know, later on, years later, a project came along, and then I found a place that I could use that theme. So I think, yeah, kind of being in a constant brainstorming mode, even if you're, you know, always think about music composition, even if you're not composing a piece. Okay, let's see. Joseph Schillinger. He's the guy that did the... no, he's not Schinker. Is he actually? I feel like I've heard of Joseph Schillinger at college. I've heard my professors talk about him, but I'm assuming he's like some big theorist or a composition guy. You guys will have to recommend some of his books to me. I might read them. Do you listen to any wind band composers? Well, yeah, I am familiar with John Mackey and Frank DeKelly. And I do listen to some wind band stuff, but that's something that I would love to get into more of, especially because I've had the fortunate opportunity to study under Jay Bocook at Furman University, and he's known for his wind band arrangements, and so I really want to write a wind band piece at some point under his direction, and learn more about that, because, you know, there are a lot of wind band pieces that get commissioned and a lot of wind bands, you know, almost more than orchestras. So I'd love to get into that, but yeah, at this point, that's just something that I don't have a lot of experience with, you know, writing for wind band and, you know, listening to wind band music. So if you have any suggestions of particular pieces you'd like me to listen to, go for it. Let's see. Let's scroll down. How would you go about writing a lullaby? That's a tough question. That's like video title. How to write a lullaby. I don't know. It depends upon. Do you want it to be a creepy lullaby? Do you want it to be like a mother's lullaby? I think generally a lullaby should just have very, very simple, very singable melody. Usually lullabies are in triple meter, but they don't always have to be. But I feel like every time I've written a lullaby, it's in triple meter. So, but I don't know. That's a very broad question. That depends upon, like, if you're writing a lullaby for a game, like, you know, what reference track are they using? Do they want you to, you know, I feel like you can write a lullaby for voice. You can write a lullaby for kind of Celeste, like it sounds like a music box. But, you know, that's a very broad question. What classical genre do you align most with? Probably French Impressionism, I would have to say. I love the harmonic. I love the modality of French Impressionism. I love the freedom of texture. And I love how it's not truncated sections. Like, I love Mozart and Beethoven and all the classical classical period guys to death. But, you know, I don't know. I find that the truncated sections I like a sense of continuity in music. I like it to just feel like the music just keeps on going. And probably to the detriment of some of my music, you know, I think I could definitely take advantage more of silence in my music, and that's something that I constantly have to fight against, because I just want it to be constant stimulation throughout the entire piece. But anyway, back to the original point, I love, like, Daphnis at Chloe, how it's just these big giant textural crescendos. It's just so organic and so seamless, and so I love the textural continuity of Impressionism. I love, you know, especially with Ravel, taking a chorus and making it a part of the fabric of the orchestra rather than as, like, you know, singing lyrics, but just singing ahs and oohs to kind of blend in with that. I love Debussy. I love Debussy's piano music. I love Lily Boulanger. She's fantastic. You know, her harmony is amazing. So yeah, I would, if I had to choose one genre, I would probably say French Impressionism. Definitely. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions. Okay, what college did you go to? I go to Furman University. And yeah, so far I'm really liking it. It has a great music program. I've had a lot of opportunity to have my works performed. So yeah, my reasoning for going, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but my reason for going to Furman University was kind of twofold. One, I really liked the professors there because, you know, if you go to like, this is stereotyping, but if you go to a film scoring school, they're gonna be focused more on the production aspect, you know, like getting you in front of an orchestra and collaborating with, you know, film students and learning the technology and learning the sampling. And a lot of the curriculum they use is kind of a cliche oriented thing, like here's the typical setups you use, here's how you write you know, a love theme, those types of things. And then if you go on the other side, if you go to like Juilliard or something, or Eastman, they're gonna be really focused on you writing really innovative, you know. It used to be atonal music. Now they're kind of, you know, a little bit more friendly towards more tonal genres like minimalism. But anyway, but yeah, it's kind of and I wasn't really interested in either of those two things. So I really like Furman University because Dr. Mark Kilstoft and Dr. Bo Cook both are very tonal, very flourishing orchestral composers. And I really like their music, so I think I kind of, you know, wanted to be able to study under them and learn from them because I liked their music. So I think, you know, as a composer, that's probably the best reason, if you want to go to a university for music composition, the best reason to go to a school would be to be able to study under a composer. Because if you get to a school and it's a great music school, but you just don't like the music, because music is so subjective. So, you know, if you don't like the music of the person you're studying composition under, they're inevitably going to give you feedback on your music that you're not going to necessarily agree with, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be miserable. Schillinger's band at Berkeley. Oh, I want to hear that story. That's interesting. Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, yeah, if any, yeah, like I said, any theory textbooks out there that are remotely similar to harmonic relativity, let me know, because I'd love to read them. Starting my first year at SFCM, and I feel so anxious. Help. Well, maybe if you give a specific, something a little more specific, I might be able to. What are your favorite modes? I love all the modes. They're great. They're so individual. They're so unique. They're so, you know, and it's not even like you write a progression in one mode and it wouldn't work in another mode. It's not even like you just take the whole idea of like 1-4-5-1 and then you can just translate it into every mode and it's slightly darker or slightly lighter, you know, because you can organize modes according to lightness and darkness, you know, where you have like Lydian, Ionian, Mixolydian, Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian, and then Locrian, and then if you lower the first scale degree, then you just go back to Lydian and keep on going. But even though you can organize them like that, and I am a fan of organizing them according to color and brightness, to me they're all individual whenever I approach writing one, you know. But obviously, you know, I'd probably have to go with Lydian if I had to pick a favorite. I think that's kind of everybody's favorite mode. Like, let's be honest. You know, yeah, Dorian is also great. I love Dorian as well. Does Furman get into a lot of new music? Yes, it does, and that's the thing that I like about Furman is that it is unbiased. We look at minimalism, we look at atonality, sometimes we look at pop music. You know, sometimes we look at Beethoven. You know, they're just very much like especially our composition seminar, for example, is focused on writing for a particular instrumentation, and then we just look at. Pieces of music in that particular genre. So, like, let's say, you know, piano quartets, you know, or chamber music with piano accompaniment. That'll be like the composition seminar theme for a particular semester. And then we'll look at Beethoven. You know, we'll look at Schoenberg. We'll look at Barber. We'll look at what's that one piece that we listened to recently? Oh, dum dum dee dum 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 dee dum dum. Oh, the name will come to me. But yeah, and I've learned about a lot of new composers that I never heard of from that composition seminar. You know, people don't realize how there are so many composers out there that are writing fantastic new music that doesn't sound like, you know, atonal, ear scraping. Not that I have anything against atonality, but you know, there's a lot of new music being written on there. So yeah, I think they're very unbiased and they're very good at giving you a variety of things, and they don't shove anything down your throat. It's like, here, check out all this music, you know, figure out what you like. Debussy's wonderful. Yeah, I'll check that out. Richard Saucedo. How do you acquire the opportunity to write for video games? I don't know. That's kind of, you know, and I'm nowhere close to, you know, because I'm still halfway through college, so it's not like I'm going head on into my career and trying to like get big video game projects. But for me personally, that's just something that is a snowball effect that kind of happened over like me writing lots of music, me writing music on a daily basis, just improving little by little, and posting my music online and building a following over years, and then gradually video game composers. Oh wait, on the stream, can you guys still hear me? Can you still hear me? It's saying that the stream output is like really, really low, so just let me know if you guys can still hear me. Or maybe it's like really far behind. Oh, okay. Anyway, but like if you oh, I was gonna say no. Yeah, if you do good work and you start out with free work, like you definitely don't want to devalue composers by doing free work when you get to the point of being really competent and you're able to produce professional quality music. But at the same time, when you start out, you need experience writing for video games. You need experience working with directors and being, especially if you're really creative and individual as a composer. Then when you have to take another director's vision and you kind of have to accept their vision and provide what they want, still using your own creativity, but kind of accepting their references. It's a skill in and of itself, and that's so I would say the way that I started was I started with like video game developer forums, like Game Creators is an example of one, just kind of thinking like a video game developer. And actually I got into C++ for a little while and started kind of getting into video game development just to kind of get my head or to put myself in the shoes of video game developers. And so doing that, then I could post on their forums like, hey, I'm looking for experience writing music, and if you say that you're writing free music, they're gonna jump right on it. It's not gonna be like spam or anything. And then you get experience, and then then you can put on your SoundCloud portfolio that oh hey, this is the such and such soundtrack, and then it's like, oh okay, this guy is written for actual games, and then it gives you credibility, and then you can start charging little by little, and then gradually build enough of a presence and word of mouth that people will start communicating with you. And that's kind of the point that I'm at now, is like I don't really, at least now, luckily I don't have to go search out for work. I can sort of just I get work and job opportunities on SoundCloud, from YouTube, from Facebook, from word of mouth, from people referring me, and I just get emails, and then I just can kind of pick and choose what work that I want. But it took a long time to get up there, and I started pretty young. So that's what I would say. Just do good work, do consistent work, and enjoy what you're doing. Because that's the easiest way. It's kind of like people talk to me and they're like, you have hours of music on your SoundCloud. You must be a real workaholic. And to me, I don't think of it as like I'm a workaholic. I think of it as like I love to compose music. Like I just find it really, really enjoyable. I think a lot of composers often they want that final product, and when they can get it sounding exactly what they want, that's what they want. And it's like, oh, okay, I finished. But the process of writing it is frustrating. And to me, the harder a piece of music is to write, the more exciting it is to write, right? Because if a piece of music is really easy to write, then you're just kind of doing the same things that you usually do, right? And I'm as guilty of that as anybody else. If you you use that same little bump 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 bump, or you use the same chord progression, or you just kind of use the same A section and then B section and then A section, if you kind of fall into habits of doing the same things, or that little cadence bum 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 bum, there's nothing necessarily wrong with doing that if it's warranted and appropriate in the music. But I think to me the most fun pieces of music I've ever composed are the pieces that are really hard to compose. Like the fugue in A major, for example, that piece was really, really hard to compose, and every bar I just labored over, to get everything right. Oh wait, is it okay? Is it still laggy? Okay. Well, hopefully, like the final version shouldn't have too much lag, but. Let's see. All right. Any suggestions for... Wait, I need to go back up. I'm missing lots of questions. Okay, yeah, okay. Before music college, where did you learn about composition? just, I don't know, just have a thirst for knowledge and look everywhere and you'll find it. To me, it's been so many different sources. You know, of course, great YouTube channels like Orchestration Online was a huge one for me. But literally, if you can save up and buy every composition manual, buy them all, read them all, take notes, digest it. And I think the most important thing I would say is that whenever you process new information, to kind of internalize it from a point of application and a point of emotional application, right? So if you find a new, so like when I first figured out chordal harmony, for example, it wasn't like I read in a book, oh, this is what chordal harmony is, cool, a new paintbrush, and I can just write pieces in chordal harmony now. I listened to chordal harmony and I heard chordal harmony in video game soundtracks and film soundtracks, and I was like, oh, okay, this has a certain cold kind of metallic aesthetic to it that's really cool from an emotional standpoint. And so now when I need to express that aesthetic, when I am writing a game or film soundtrack or writing a concert piece, I can pull that out. You know, it's not like you're learning these tools for the sake of having tools to learn, but, you know, the example that I always give is like if you know, it's kind of like you buy a sponge brush or something as a painting, and it's not like you say, okay, I'm going to paint an entire painting with a sponge brush. You know, you might, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, doing an exercise like that, but most people are going to be like, okay, I'm drawing a tree, and so therefore, in order to get the best bark on this tree, then I'm going to use my sponge brush. But the underlying goal is to draw a tree and make the tree look as good as possible. So that's kind of, you know, I think always be like, I want to express myself musically, and I want to and I'm just expanding my palette to have the largest range of emotional expression as possible, especially as a film and game composer, where, you know, versatility is really important because you're having to write love themes and battle themes and forest themes and village themes and main titles and, you know, but yeah, I mean, you know, obviously all the YouTube videos, all the composition manuals and studying scores, you know, and I would say too, and this is advice that I give a lot, but like when you're studying a score, because this is a lot of people, a lot of my students come to me and they're like, hey, I bought this John Williams score and there's just so much going on, or I bought the planets and there's so much going on, and it's like, how do I process this? How do I learn from this? Like, I can look and I can read the notes, but I don't know how to apply it to my own composition. So it's important to take particular moments of music, I would say like 8 bars that you really like. Don't just pick a random 8 bars and be like, I really like that. And then figure out, what do you like about it, right? Is it the texture that you like about it? Is it the harmony that you like about it? Do you like this counterpoint? You know, and then once you have that as a reference, then you sort of know what you're pulling out of it. And if you take music on its individual aspects, you know, like melody, harmony, rhythm, and counterpoint, if you borrow one aspect but then keep all the other aspects different, you're not ripping off the composer, you know. Like, for example, you know, the example that I gave in my most recent How to Write Like John Williams video, like, you know, horn, viola, and cello, doubling all those things together gets a really rich sound. That's like, you learn that, and that's a new paintbrush. And you can write something that sounds absolutely nothing like Holst that uses that same technique, right? You don't want to rip off Holst music. You don't want to rip off the harmony and the melody. You don't just want to take something and sort of, you know, rewrite it on the surface level, but you want to figure out what devices, harmonic, melodic, contrapuntal, structural, and textural devices, make this music tick from an underlying level, and then sort of learn from those and apply those to your own aesthetic and style. But let's see. So yeah, and also transcription is really, really important. Transcription by ear, because one, it works out your ear, and two, it allows you to, because obviously lots of scores don't exist for like video game music, for example, you know. So one of the first transcriptions that I ever did was the Chrono Trigger main theme, and that was really hard when I first did it because the harmony was, you know, pretty advanced by video game standards. A lot of non-functional harmony and chromaticism. So the process of notating that out and learning it by ear helped me not only get my ear to be better, but it also, by, I don't know, just something about the process. Transcription is like an age-old process for really processing a piece of music. If you take something and then you put it out on paper yourself, you're forced to internalize it as you do that, and you can just gain so much more from it because you're kind of seeing it from an inside view, you know, and it forces you to notice every little detail, and you notice all these little details, and you're like, well, that's really cool. I wouldn't have noticed that just listening to it, you know, or even just looking at a score, I wouldn't have noticed it because, you know, your eye has a tendency to kind of gravitate towards specific things in the score. But anyway, I digress. Oh gosh, I need to get quicker at answering these questions, otherwise I'm never going to get to them all. Do you do private critique for compositions submitted to you for analysis, and can you send said person's composition critique back in recorded form? That's an interesting idea. I might do that in the future. Right now, basically what I just do is Skype lessons. I hate that the video output is low. Oh wait, it should be okay now. I don't know how to fix that, so technological people let me know if I can make it better. But anyway, what I do take on Skype lessons, and I do have some slots open, but I'm almost full. So, and I do when people email me, I do try to get back to them. And I have a goal of getting back to everyone at some point in my life, but it's kind of at the point now where with my channel growing, I'm getting so many emails that it's just not humanly possible. So basically what I just do is just try to answer like 2 emails in detail, and I try to give detailed answers a day, and I just kind of go in the order that they sent them to me. So, you know, the ones from further back, I try to answer first. So yeah, I don't know if it would be humanly possible for me to do that for anybody and everybody, as much as I would love to do that. Can you give a brief explanation on how to incorporate woodwind runs into orchestrations? So it's something that depends on the context. There are multiple ways that you could use a woodwind run. One is for a transition. So, you know, dum 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 dum, where it kind of leads into a new tonality or leads into a new section in the music. And in that case, you basically, you know, just start from the key center that you're at, and you end on the key center that you're at from a scalar direction. And sometimes you can kind of work your way up there. Like, for example, if you're on an E major chord, but then you're going to A minor, rather than doing E major, like E, F sharp, G sharp, rather than doing, you know, E Ionian, you could do E harmonic major. So, like, forgive me if you have perfect pitch, because this is not going to be an actual E, but like ba-da-da, instead of ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, you could go ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. So you're kind of, it works with E major tonality, but it also is foreshadowing the fact that you're getting to A minor, right? So you could sort of halfway through the scale kind of, you know, lead into the new thing, rather than just sort of going up E major and then suddenly we're in A minor. So if you're thinking from them as a transitional device, that's what you can do. Then the other thing is just sort of have woodwind runs kind of going, and that's just kind of like going, it's kind of like a harp gliss, and it just gives a sense of climax. And the important things with woodwind runs is that if you have a tutti where everybody's going at once, you need to make sure that it's in the best registers of all the woodwinds. Like the flutes need to be high up, the oboes need to be in their mid register. Is this still working? It says stream complete. Oh wait, okay. I just need to not pay attention to that. It gives me a little like you know, green or red, or like it says the stream went offline and I panicked. But anyway, so you could have woodwind runs kind of going, and it's just really a by ear, you know, thing. I just kind of hear a woodwind run in my mind, and then I just kind of approximate it. And you usually use tuplets for these things. Like you usually use like a septuplet, you know, if you want to get from E to E and in a diatonic 7-note mode, you'd usually use like a septuplet to get there. That's just something that's really common. Some people also like to do fours, to do like 4 30-second notes and then a triplet, like but you know, it all pretty much is the same thing. And then the other thing is when you create woodwind runs to create a sort of textural wash, and Ravel is the master of this. You know, check out Daphnis and Chloe. Just study Daphnis and Chloe, and that'll give you a really good idea of how to create, you know, how to create woodwind runs that create an impressionistic sort of gloss. So, I mean, those are the kind of the 3 ways that I think of incorporating woodwind runs. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Yeah, the live stream should be uploaded as a video after this. How would you recommend splitting up time between studying music and theory, practicing your instrument, writing music, etc.? How do you divide your time on average day or week? Well, you know, it really depends. It's kind of funny. Whenever I have a lot of free time, like at the beginning of the summer, I'll plan out every day, and I'll be like, I'm gonna read this book, you know, for this 30 minutes, and then for this 30 minutes I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna practice piano for an hour, and then I'm gonna run through jazz tunes, and then, you know, kind of do that. But then I always end up getting busy, and then that kind of goes by the wayside. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know how, you know, just basically what I just do is, to be honest, to be deadly honest with you guys, what I just do is I just do my work in terms of how impending it is. The things that are due first, I just work and I just get those done and just, and then whenever I have a bit of free time, then I just take that opportunity and just peruse whatever's interesting to me. And some day, it just depends upon the mood that I'm in. Sometimes it'll be like, you know what, I want to really listen to a new piece of music, and then I'll search on YouTube and find some piece of music I haven't heard before with the score and listen to it, and then I'll see if there's anything in there that I can sort of grab from compositionally, and then I'll kind of make a mental note, like, let me try that out in my own composition, later, whether it's a textural device or, harmonic device or something like that. Or just score studying, because even if I have these scores and I've read them a billion times, you can still learn so much from especially if you come to the score with a different goal in mind. If you just start out and say, I'm going to score a read, okay, that's fine. But like if you say, I'm going to do a harmonic analysis, like just the other day I did a harmonic analysis of Yoda's theme. I've heard Yoda's theme a billion times, but I did a harmonic analysis and I learned lots of little details about the way that he voice led his progressions, and about how something that sounds really simple is actually more elegant and more subtle than I thought it was just by listening to it. So just doing a harmonic analysis, or doing something like that. I do try to read from a composition or theory manual at least one chapter a day. Like right now I'm going through the Cherubini Counterpoint book, which has been really, really interesting and really fun. So yeah, I don't know. I honestly, it depends upon your personality. Because some people like more structure, some people like to just kind of do things more freely. Generally, all that I do is I just prioritize the work that I need to get done that has a deadline, and then once I get that done, then I just spend the rest of the day just exploring things in music, and that it could be anything. It could be watching Adam Neely on YouTube. It could be watching a Jacob Collier interview. It could be improvising at the piano. It could be transcribing. It could be like counterpoint. And I just kind of have an intuitive sense of what I haven't done in a while. Like if I haven't written some 4-part writing for chorus in a while, in order so that I don't get rusty, I'll kind of, write a little bit. And sometimes I just mess around, like, and you never know when these things will turn into something. Like I came up with this little 7/8 beat, just kind of messing around, and I was like, oh, what if I took 7/8 and then each one of the 7/8s had triplets, so it's like da 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 da. So it's basically like 7/8 but with triplets. And then I came up with a little beat or something, and then I was just kind of toying around. I saved the Logic project and it kind of went away. And then later on, I was writing a track, and it's like, oh, that'd be a great time to use this beat, So again, just kind of toying around in your sandbox and then saving all of it and keeping it well organized so that you can pull it out later. That really helps in it, almost completely eliminates writer's block, because you have all these ideas. It's not like you're starting with a blank page every day. So yeah, I wish I could say like you should divide your time up like this, and this, but that depends upon your goals as a musician. Because like if I wanted to be a performer, I should spend much more time practicing than I do. Like I love playing piano and I love practicing piano and I love, I want my chops to stay fresh, but at the same time, like my focus is music composition. So there's only so much time in the day, so you do have to prioritize what's most important. Yeah, see you, Reach. Thanks for joining. My pleasure, Matt. Any suggestions for getting started with 4-part writing? Well, once you've gotten through like a basic theory book, and kind of you got the rules down pat, and you're kind of like, okay, no parallels, and the voicing, there shouldn't be more than an octave between any one voice except the bass and the tenor. Once you've got all that stuff down, which is just like 18th century vocal 4-part writing, which is just one kind of way of thinking, then it's really just score study in combination with writing your own music. But I would say score study, especially like string quartets. Just study string quartets, study brass quartets, study woodwind quartets. Just study music. There's nothing that is going to teach you music composition better, than seeing people. Like what did Quentin Tarantino say? Like, oh, I didn't go to film school, I went to films. To a certain extent, like, yeah, there's nothing, like, you should definitely learn your craft, and you should learn the systematic pedagogical ways of approaching everything. Like, you should learn all that stuff, but at the end of the day, you're going to learn how to write music from studying other people's music and from writing music yourself. So really, learn all the basic rules of 4-part writing, and then just find examples of 4-part writing in music and really delve into them and see how the voice leading works, and, do they violate any rules? Is there more do they violate spacing rules? Are there parallels? And be like, okay, well, do you think, was it on purpose, or do you think it was a mistake, or do you think that maybe because this was a different context than what they were trying to achieve in 18th century music, maybe there's a valid reason, and try and figure out what that reason is. And then, you are less, because people get so bogged down in the theory. People are like, I can only write with the rules of counterpoint, and they feel guilty for going outside of the box. But you should be totally free to make any decision you want, whether it's following an 18th century rule or breaking it. But you shouldn't do it out of ignorance. You should be aware of when you should, intelligently break a rule. But, it should always be from the point of like, I want to accomplish this thing musically, and in order to accomplish this thing musically, I need to use parallels, So like if you have a particular voicing, let's say like, C, G, C and E flat, right? And then you go down to like a B flat chord. So like B flat, F, B flat, and D, right? That's parallel fifths in the bass, but your melody does that, and you want it to be the warmest, richest, most overtone series-esque voicing. So there's no reason for you to, avoid parallel fifths and make the voicing poor and change the melody just to avoid parallel fifths when it sounds perfectly fine. Your ear should be the guide. If it sounds fine and it has parallel fifths, don't worry about it. But the thing is, there are a lot of times in someone's music where avoiding parallel fifths would make it sound better, especially in counterpoint. So it's not a matter of like you should just ignore the rules, and it's not a matter of you should just follow the rules and just be completely bound by them. You should always just be aware of why those rules exist, and then intelligently break them or follow them depending upon what's going to work best for the musical context. So that was a massive rabbit trail. Sorry, Matt. It's already 5:30. Oh my gosh. I love Locrian for its unstableness. That's awesome. I want to see a masterpiece in Locrian. Please send it to me. I want to hear that. Is Furman a good uni for music ed comp major? Do I need to be as good as you to get into it? No. Yes, it is, but and you don't have to be. I don't know. I don't think I'm that good. I just spend a lot of time working on my craft. But the composition program there is really nice, and again, I think it's because of the professors that they have great players there, which are they're not like Juilliard level players, but they're very good players. So, and because of the fact that the composition program is fairly small and they only accept a certain amount of composers, you have a lot of opportunity to write music for live musicians. Whereas if you went to like a bigger music school, you're kind of a smaller. What is the term? Yeah, Furman University is kind of like a big fish in a small pond thing. So if you're prepared and you come and you're good and you're like one of there are usually only like 12 at the most composition students at Furman. So there's just lots of opportunities. So someone might be like, no, I want to go and be at Juilliard and Eastman, and that's fine. But for me, going to Furman and because it has such a small, close, tightly knit community, it has just afforded me personally lots of opportunities to write for live musicians, to have my music performed, to develop relationships with these musicians that then I can hire them for recording live sessions for video game and film scores. And I really like my professors. I like my theory professor, Dr. Daniel Koppelman. I like Mark Kilstoff, who teaches composition. He's an expert at choral writing. And I've learned a lot about choral writing from him. And then Bo Cook, again, he's the orchestration master. He's a phenomenal orchestrator. Like if you look him up, he's a huge dude in the music industry. So I've learned a lot from those people. So yeah, me personally, I really enjoyed it. But it is a very expensive university, and that's definitely something like you shouldn't you should judge whether or not it's worth the money, because I got a lot of scholarships. So if I had to go into a ton of debt, I may not have done that, because it's not necessary to, getting work as a film and game composer. Like going to college is a great experience, and I would highly recommend it if you can, but like you do not need college. In the film and game scoring composers, not for every field, but in that particular field, a piece of paper means nothing. But so it's not like you're getting a degree, you're getting the experience. But if by going to college, you learn how to write for live musicians and you get lots of great advice from these people who are, fantastic mentors, and you become a better composer, then it's absolutely worth it. And you are going to get more work because you're a better composer and not because you have a piece of paper. Let's see. Let me scroll down and see. Holy crap. Hopefully it's not lagging too much. I don't want to scroll down too far because I'll lose track of all the comments. Whoa. So many questions. Let's see. What things do you say we should study to compose? Study everything. Every musical thing you can get your hands on. Every genre too. You know, like sometimes you learn something about jazz and you can carry it over to something that's not jazzy. You know. Do you have any great resources that you use as a reference for music theory? No, because there are so many. You know, there are so many. I mean, you look at like 5 different theory curriculums, and everybody has their own terminology, and there are very few things that are standardized in music theory. So, you know, I would just get all, you know, like why are you needing to answer a music theory question would be my question. You know what I mean? Like if you're needing to know some information, like, you know, major chords or minor chords and augmented chords, or how to spell out chords, or like technical notational things, you know, then you could get a compendium, like, you know, for notation it would be Elaine Gould's Behind Bars, or, you know, the Alfred's Book of Basic Music Theory would be great. But as far as like learning techniques for your music, you know, just get your hands on everything. There's not really a Bible of music theory. How do you go about promoting your music? I can't help with that because, you know, my music on YouTube was getting like no views until I posted a tutorial. And then once I posted a tutorial, like how to write epic orchestral film music, then people started searching for that on YouTube and they found it, and then they found my music, you know? So, and I've just been sharing my music with everybody, you know, and asking for feedback on it. And again, I just, the fan base, if you want to call it that I've built over the years has just been something that has been very slow and very gradual, and just consistently putting things out there. So, you know, I don't think there's necessarily, I mean, I could go into like, you know, yeah, I don't know. I would just say just do good work, and you know all the typical things. Like everybody tells you the same stuff. You know, network, go to film and game conventions. Like all that stuff is true. Like, you know, I don't have any secret that anybody else has. You know, just do all the stuff that everybody says to do. Everything that's within your power. And just focus on writing great music. That's what you should focus on, because if you write great music, you know, that's what will allow you to get to the top of the ladder faster. Now, there's no shortcuts. There aren't any tricks. Just focus on improving your craft and share what you write with everybody, and always have a good, positive attitude. And whenever you work with a director, a video game director, don't ever like insult their intelligence. You know, even if they don't know anything musically, always just be like, you know, yeah, sure, I can make that change, or yeah, I can do this. I can totally do this if you want to, but be aware that if I shift things around, it may not work harmonically. So do you want me to rewrite it? And it's not like you're necessarily like, you know. I can't think of a non-inappropriate way of saying, but you know what I mean. It's not like you're necessarily bowing down before them, but doing that they'll give you more work. You know what I mean? Because if you are not only a good composer who can give them what they want musically, but you also are super friendly and really accommodating and great to work with, they're going to come back to you for more work. And if you build like 10, 15, 20 relationships with people like that, you're going to get a constant stream of new work. I mean, look at like John Williams and Steven Spielberg. You know, 90% of John Williams' most famous film scores and the bulk of his career came from working with just this one collaborator, Steven Spielberg. So, you know, create relationships with people. If you want to be a game and film composer, or if you want to be a concert composer, create relationships with a string quartet group, you know, or a group like Dakota or something, you know, or just find instrumentalists in your area, you know, and write something for them. And if you give them something that is fun to play, it is challenging, like it is written well for their abilities. It doesn't insult their intelligence, but it's also not like so challenging that it's unidiomatic, but it's just really gratifying to play. And it's music that the audience is going to enjoy listening to, even if they're not familiar with concert music, and it's accessible. You know, I mean, that's just what I would say. I mean, you can write what you want in your little corner and just sort of like, you know, intellectually indulge yourself, and I don't have anything against that. But like, that's never been my personal goal. I want to write things that, you know, other people will enjoy. And it's not like you know, Shostakovich or whatever, where it's kind of like, you know, I'm trying to write something that other people will enjoy, therefore I won't enjoy because I want to write atonal music. Just in general, I just like, I don't know, maybe it's because I started with video game and film music, but I like tunes. Like, I like a 8-bar, simple, whistleable, moving, memorable tune. Like I love tunes, so you know it's just a matter of my goals as a composer has always been very much in the mainstream and in the accessible, and it's not that I don't want to be creative or try and add new things to the world of music, but you know I like writing for the people, and I want people to, and it's not like if people don't like what I write, then I'm, you know, gonna get like super upset or like get depressed or anything, because I do enjoy what I write and I enjoy listening to it and I enjoy the process of writing it. And by the time I finish writing a piece of music, the process of creating that has already gratified me. So I don't need people to necessarily like it. But that being said, when I make a musical decision, I'm always thinking about my audience. So yeah, so. Do you know if return from modes that have the root outside of the scale, say F sharp is in the bass and C major in the melody, there's album 5 and then they sound dissonant, but they're more than local. Yeah, that's an interesting question. To me, it's kind of a, I don't know, I think of bitonality or polytonality and additive bass notes as sort of two different things. Because, you know, polytonality, you really do have two completely different scales on top of each other. But then often Williams will have like a major chord or something, you know, in a particular scale, Ionian, Lydian, or whatever, in the right hand. Or in the upper parts, and then it'll have an additive bass note that doesn't exist, so like C major on top of like A flat, for example, right? So, you know, you could say that, okay, maybe it's just like a C major harmonic major, so like C, D, E, F, G, A flat, B, C, and you could say that it's implying that scalarly, but oftentimes he'll have like an A natural in there as well, and also the A flat in the bass. So, you know, I don't know. I tend to think of that as just giant function change, to where like this C major that you have on top, when you put the A flat in the bass, to me that sounds like an A flat augmented major seventh, right? You know, and all those, so the C major, E, C, E, and G, which is like the first, the root, the third, and the fifth, become the upper extensions of the A flat. So just kind of the way that I think about function change and harmonic relativity, you know, first off, to answer your question, no, I don't. To my knowledge, I don't think there's a term for that. But I do distinguish it from bitonality, if I understand what you're saying, right? So you have a you know, a certain note in the bass, an additive bass note that's chromatic, it's outside of the mode, and then something else in the melody or in the, you know, and again, Williams does this all the time, and Stravinsky does this all the time, and Barber does this all the time. JJ, in your opinion, do you believe that Contact 5 is worth purchasing? Yeah, it depends upon, again, it depends upon your goal. Like, what instruments do you want? Like, if you want to get pretty much any, like, decent third-party plugins, you're going to need Contact. But at the same time, there are certain, like, chiptune music. You can write chiptune music with free sound fonts, you know, in any DAW. You don't need to buy any external things, so you don't need Contact. Or if you want to start out with orchestral composing, you can get East-West, which uses the Play engine, and that doesn't use Contact, right? So, you know, there's no one answer. It's like, what kind of music do you want to write? Do you want to write orchestral music? Do you want to write big band jazz? Do you want to be able to write everything? And I think if you want to have versatility as a composer, you definitely Contact is a must at some point. So, you know, it just depends upon your budget, though. Like, you should say, okay, well, let's say I have $1,000 for a home studio. You know, at that point, the decisions that what I would advise you to get is going to be totally different than someone who comes along and says, oh, I have $5,000 to spend, or someone that comes along and says, hey, I have $100. So, you know, just look at your budget, look at your goals, you know, and then, you know, so that's what I would say. If you want a more specific answer from me, you know, and you can, like, email me about this and ask me if you want, but, like, you know, or ask anybody else, you got to give, like, what you want to write, the type of music that you're going to write, which will be like, okay, so then you need these samples, and then your budget, so it's, you know, and your DAW and all these other things. Second, what you said, having just finished composing an hour and 20 minutes, the more challenging composing, more satisfying. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's more gratifying. What's up, Michael? How are you doing? What instruments do you play? Piano, well, I play a lot of other instruments, but melodica. But, no, I do sing a lot. I don't think I have a good voice personally, but, like, I sing in choirs and barbershop quartets, and I've even sung solos before, and I've been in lead roles in musicals. I don't know how. Don't ask me. But, so, you could consider me a singer, right? But I don't really consider myself a singer. I do play drums as well, and percussion. But, you know, again, I don't know. I think once you get to a certain level of competence in, like, you know, piano or composing or whatever, you're hesitant to call yourself, like, a real player. So I would really only call myself a real piano player, and then I'd like to dabble in lots of other things. But as far as dabbling, yeah, percussion. I did take a year of violin, but I can really just scratch basing things out. So I'm not a violin player, but that really helped a lot with my string writing and bowing and having a visceral feel for the instrument. I can play like all the basic chords on guitar, you know. So, and I do play ocarina. Oh, do I have my ocarina around here? No, I think I left it. I think I left it in the studio. But I do have an ocarina, and I do like you know, basic wind instruments like that. And I also played saxophone for a while. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm you know, not competent enough to get anything, you know, beyond middle school level out on those other instruments. So I would say that I'm, you know, primarily a pianist. Not to be move and fidget so much. I don't know. I'm just really hyperactive. I have ADHD, and I also have Asperger's syndrome. So I don't know if those two like interact in a weird way or what, but like, yeah, I'm very aware of how much I fidget, but I just think I'm just really hyperactive. But, you know, while that's definitely not good, you know, in a classroom, it might annoy people. Just from a purpose of having energy, it's been really helpful. Like, I mean, I don't know, like I can just like write music for like 7 hours straight and then go to sleep and wake up the next day and do the same thing. So I don't know, I just have a lot of energy as an individual. So fast metabolism. Yeah, he needs. I would like to do a beginner orchestration video series. Yeah, I might do more beginner videos. A lot of people ask for that, but again, that's kind of later down the road, just because I'm trying to create videos that don't exist, or at least that I haven't been satisfied with. Like the reason, for example, the reason that I first made my original video, how to write epic orchestral music, which is just me going through my Iguana Man piece. You know, the reason I made that video was because before I had written that piece, and back when I didn't know anything about orchestration, I was searching for these videos on YouTube. It's like, I want someone to just go through their score, like their project file in Sibelius or Finale, and just show me, explain to me, what does this instrument do? What does that instrument do? What is that instrument doing? How do they combine together? What dynamic levels did you choose? What articulations? You know, and then here the final thing. I just wanted that so badly when I first started out writing music. So when I got to the point and I kind of learned a bit of orchestration, and then I wrote this piece and I was pretty satisfied with the piece, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and make this YouTube video that I wanted, and then you know that the rest is history. So you know, so that's kind of my goal. I don't want to create. I don't want to I don't want to try and improve on other people's content. I just want to look and see if there's something that doesn't exist out there, and then if I might be able to shed some light on the subject, then, you know, I'll make a video on it. That's just kind of what I want to do. Like harmonic relativity, for example. I'm sure other people, like Radhavara, I'm sure other people have used that particular technique of reverse extension harmonization, but I didn't see anything about that on YouTube. You know, and sometimes there are a lot of music, like there are lots lately with Adam Neely and with Rick Beato and 12 Tone. You know, there have been a lot of great channels that have popped up, or 8-Bit Music Theory is another great one. So it's gotten really great in the past few months, in the past year. But that being said, there's a lot of, you know, crap out there. So even if, like, the reason I did a counterpoint series just because I wasn't satisfied with the way that everybody taught counterpoint, and I just want to teach everything from a practical perspective, right? If you take it from music theorists, they're going to say, here are a billion different ways of doing something. These are what existing composers do, which is like great, and you know, you can learn all that information, and it's wonderful information, but you don't know how to apply it to your own compositions, right? And that's, again, the problem with a lot of university classes is, like, unless you're taking private lessons and they're commenting on your music, you know, they're you're not learning how to apply this information. So I'm always teaching things, which is sometimes controversial. Sometimes I make a point and people are like, I disagree with you. And it's like, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that it's my way, hit their highway. I'm just saying, you know, this is how I do it. So if you want to know how I do it, this is how I do it. And, you know, and you should try and, you know, that's why score study is so great, because you can look how Ravel did it, and how Holst did it, and how Stravinsky did it, and how Beethoven did it. You know, they all had their own ways of doing it. And, you know, and you need to be, you know, aware of as many of those ways as possible. It's not, you know, but still, you know, the subjectivity is lost in a sort of pedagogical, systematized, theoretical teaching in it. And it's fine for, like, a performer who's required to take theory and kind of learn more about the music that they're playing. Yeah, it's great for that. But for composers, it's, you know, it can be very frustrating because you're just given all this information and it's like, it doesn't seem applicable. You feel like it's a waste of time. So, let's see. Is this just a Q&A stream, or are you going to compose later on? I guess I could compose, but no, I haven't prepared that. And would you guys be interested in that? Let me know if you'd be interested in me like composing on screen or something at some point. But yeah, I was just planning for this to be a Q&A. I'd have to figure out how to get the screen sharing working and stuff. big band and jazz videos. How important is learning jazz for film composing? You don't see a lot of... I mean, I've gotten work. Like, just recently I got a big band thing for a video game. You know, and that's like the guy that referred me, because he was writing the soundtrack, and then someone asked him to write a big band jazz track, and he wasn't comfortable writing jazz, so he referred me. So, you know, obviously if you have the skill, you know, every skill that you have a greater chance of getting work, because that's another skill that someone could say, oh, hey, this guy does jazz, let me get him or her. You know, so I would say there's nothing, you know, I wouldn't say that jazz is like really, really high up on like must learns. Like, there are plenty of great film composers out there that don't write jazz stuff at all. But I think pretty much all the best great composers, like even like John Powell, like he has some really jazzy moments in his score, and you can tell by the way that he wrote them that like he knew what he was doing, you know. Or even just like the little like marching band section and Robots, you know, da 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 do do do, you know what I'm talking about? Like boom, bum, bum, bum. What is it called? Rivet Town Parade. Just this little cue in the Robot soundtrack that John Powell wrote is like for marching band, or band, I should say, not necessarily marching band. No, it's marching band. But anyway, but like, you know, that was a skill that he needed for that particular project, and he pulled it off really well and authentically. So I would say learn as many genres as you possibly can. But, you know, you should definitely focus on and really get one down pat before moving on. But yeah, and jazz is something that I'm really working on a lot now. Like, that's not something that I've studied quite a bit of jazz at Furman, and I'm playing in a jazz quartet and also playing in the big band, and so I'm getting exposed to that. But that's definitely like one of the things that I'm focusing on learning right now. It's not something that I have a lot of experience with. What should an aspiring film composer primarily begin focusing on? Oh, I don't know. That's such a broad question. I would just focus on. It depends. As a film composer, you probably should be focusing on, if you want to get work, you should be focusing on getting your production value as high as possible. You know, learning mixing and mastering, learn how to make things sound really, really realistic and really professional, because film score guys, they really want you to be able to write professional sounding music, right? Whereas if you were being a video game composer, I would say that you really need to focus on experimenting texturally, and you really need to focus on melody. To be able to write a really good tune, especially in indie games, is really, really important for the video game world, but it's not nearly as important for the film scoring world, because a lot of the stuff you do for film scoring is just ambient or background music and stuff. And that's nothing against film scoring, because there are lots of great projects out there that afford you opportunities to write, you know, great music. But generally, you know, I would say if you're film scoring, focus on production value. If you're game scoring, you know, focus on being able to come up with unique sound, because they want you to, like Terraria, you know, great example, which has like synths mixed with orchestra. It's a very unique sound, right? And so from a branding perspective, video games, they really want you to come up with original melodic material and original textural material, so that you can create a sound for their game that's unlike any other sound. If you're writing concert music, it should definitely be idiomaticism of your writing. You should really know how to write well for, you know, if you're writing a string quartet, you should write a string quartet that makes them think that a string player wrote it, like, you know, because getting more work and getting more opportunities for concert music means that your writing music is gratifying for them to play. So I would say that, you know, those are kind of depending upon, if I had to just pick one thing to like really, really focus on nailing for those three different things, that's what I would say. You mentioned personality a while back. I know you're type INTJ. I'm INTP, so it's interesting for me to hear about your workflow and how to go with. Yeah, I don't know. I think the whole MBTI thing is fascinating, and I know there are some people that don't put any stock on it. And it's not like it necessarily affects the way that I do anything to know that I'm an INTJ or whatever. But I think it's very much efficiency. You know, INTJ is really kind of the efficiency aspect is really, really high and really governs the way that I think. To me, I'm always trying to boil things down to concepts, you know what I mean? And that's why I love teaching, and that's why I, you know, because I love seeing if I can take, you know, and this probably doesn't seem applicable because I go on so many big rabbit trails and, you know, probably not concise at all, but I love seeing how if I can take a complex concept and strip away all the irrelevant things and the verbose wordage and try and boil it down to the simplest possible thing. You know, or if I, you know, can I open up a Ravel scoring? Can I take everything that I learn from it and sort of put it into these practical things that I can use? You know, I don't want to like oversimplify the music, and I don't want to contrive it, but at the same time, I think definitely a lot of my workflow and a lot of just the skills that I've developed and the way that things have worked out for me have come from really being focused on being as efficient as possible. And do you think there's an age limit to being? No, absolutely not. You can start when you're 80, and as long as you enjoy yourself and enjoy what you're writing, and if you show it to one person, and just one person other than yourself, like say it's your wife or your husband, you just show it to them and they enjoy it, that's gratification enough. For me, writing a piece is gratification enough. If I wrote an exercise and I trash it and nobody ever sees it, I was gratified writing that, because one, I got a little bit better when I wrote it, and two, I just enjoyed the process of writing it and completing something. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you create a meal for yourself. If you cook an omelet and you eat it, it's gratifying, and it's also gratifying to cook omelet for other people. And of course, and the more people enjoy it, then it's gratifying. But at the same time, I would just say, like, you shouldn't be like, oh, I want to be the next Beethoven, or I want to be a successful, if you want to make a living at it, okay, yeah, then there are certain prerequisites, but if you just compose in like, look at Borodin, he was a chemist by trade, or look at Charles Ives, who was a lawyer, if I remember correctly. Both of them, music was not their main thing, and they didn't make their money from music. But they composed in their free time, and they enjoyed doing it, and they wrote masterpieces that millions of people love and enjoy today. So yeah, I would say there's no age limit at all. It's never too late. Absolutely, Christopher. There's only one rule: it has to sound good. Yeah, but that's I don't know. That's subjective, because there's some atonal music that like Barber's Piano Concerto. I love Barber's Piano Concerto. I love Barber's Piano Concerto. And I showed it to a friend once, and he just couldn't understand it. He was just I shouldn't say he couldn't understand it, but it was just too dissonant of a language for him. His ears were a bit more sensitive to dissonance, and so he didn't like it, right? It's not like it's good or bad. I would say the good or bad part comes into craft. Like, you can say something is objectively bad. It's not like the music is bad, but it's because of the fact that, it's poorly written, right? Something that's poorly written is like, you have your idea may be okay. And I think everybody has, if you listen to music and you have a heart and soul, which is like everybody, you are capable of writing good music. It's just a matter of learning the tools and techniques to be able to get your music expressed in the most logical way possible. So many people come to me and they're like, I can hear this in my head and it sounds great, but I don't know how to get it onto paper, right? So I don't know. I'm really definitely a firm believer that anybody and everybody can write music. And if you're getting into I don't think having crazy chops, or having crazy versatility is a must for everyone. Again, if you just like writing waltzes, and like I know a friend, for example, and he just likes writing waltzes. He doesn't write anything outside of paper time. He doesn't want to be a film composer or a game composer. He doesn't want to necessarily, be a career composer. He just enjoys writing waltzes, and he writes beautiful waltzes, and it's great. And I listen to them, and I've been enriched from listening to them. And I was like, I am glad that he wrote that. Like, I love listening to that, and he added something new to the world. But that's all he ever wants to write is waltzes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's you are the one that decides the goals for your composing, as long as you're enjoying the process, that's what's important. It's not important that you get there, that you like, oh, I want to write for a blockbuster film, and if I don't write for a blockbuster film and then I get 60 years old and I never wrote for a blockbuster film, then I'm going to be depressed. It's like, I don't know. I don't think that's because once you achieve that, then it's just like you're still going to be unhappy. You're going to want to achieve more and more and more, and then you're going to get to the top, and then it's going to be like, what is it, John Hancock, who was like one of the richest people. I think it was John Hancock, one of the richest people in the world. And on his deathbed, people asked him what he wanted, and he said just a little bit more money. That's what he said, It's like, I think when you search too far for the goal rather than enjoying the view, on the walk up the mountain, I think you're gonna end up miserable. So, did you ever hear some of Abel Korzeniowski's film music? No. Send me an email with some of his stuff. I'd love to hear it. Or you can post it here so everybody can enjoy it. How much do you have to hold back in complexity music in order to accommodate? That's an excellent question. That is a fantastic question. How much do you have to hold back on complexity in music in order to accommodate the general listener? Okay. It's a tough question to answer. It really depends upon whether, because like there are some things where I know that if I did this thing, the audience would, because like I don't know, there are things that I write for a game soundtrack, but then I just know how like you guys are, and I know that if I post it on my YouTube channel, you know, someone's gonna comment about some particular thing, you know what I mean, and be like, oh, you know, why is that? This is boring or whatever, and it's like, you know, I was trying to please a particular director or something, and so I don't know. I wouldn't get too overly concerned with like trying to please everybody. I would just think of what does the director want? Can I give him his vision? Can I also create something creative? And just figure out what the director really cares about. If the director really is picky about melody or texture, that's fine. Give him what he wants there. But then you can do something interesting harmonically that, you know, is both being self-creative, and then when people listen to the soundtrack, they're gonna be like, oh, that's cool. You know, like the Daggerfall soundtrack. You know, the Blizzard music. You know, it's a great sound, a great theme, and it's in 7/8, and it has some really cool, I almost said dysfunctional, non-functional harmony, and it's just like it's really gratifying to listen to music, and even like a musician or a composer who knows a lot about music to listen to it and be like, hey, that's cool. But at a certain point, like I just want to create emotional responses in people, you know, and you know, like the Attack on Titan, the latest theme, for example, like that's a great theme. Or like the Evangelican, you know, boom bum ba dum 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 dum. I love that theme, right? And I'm not gonna feel guilty about loving that theme because it just uses diatonic harmony and because there's nothing particularly innovative about it. I don't think music has to be innovative in order to be good music. You know, innovation is great because it gives you more tools for emotionally expressing, you know, a wider range of emotions. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with classic diatonic harmony, you know. I mean, look at Barbara's Adagios for strings. That's one of the most chilling pieces of music ever written, and it's just almost entirely diatonic harmony, right? So, you know, my goal is to give an emotional and authentic and genuine emotional response to my listener. And if that, you know, can use advanced harmonic techniques, yeah, I'll use them. Or if it's a simple diatonic tune, which oftentimes is harder to write than the complex stuff, then I'll do that. I don't think like, oh, you know, accessibility or non-accessibility. I just want to create an authentic emotional response. And I think people are more willing to accept if you give them concert music, they expect it to be more pleasant. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if you give them like atonal or like really terrifying sounding music, they're not gonna like it in a concert hall. But if you put that up against like a horror film or a scary film, they're not gonna question it. They're gonna be like, oh, okay, this makes sense because it's a horror film, right? So I would say you're probably a little bit. One of the reasons I like being a game composer and a film composer is because I'm afforded the opportunity to write lots of different aesthetics and genres and styles. And they all complement each other. So yeah, I wouldn't say don't hold back on complexity, but there are some things that are more subtle that they have intellectual gratification rather than emotional gratification, right? You know what I mean? Like if Bach writes a fugue subject on his own name, that's not going to make the music sound any better, but it's going to be a cheeky little joke for people that know how to read music and know, oh, okay, he wrote a fugue, it's, you know. But that's kind of like a different thing. That's kind of like, you know, I don't know, it's an insider joke. It's like if you used Papyrus, you know, or Comic Sans as a font thing, you know what I mean? It's not like it changes what you say at all, but it's a kind of esoteric. I mean, most people know what those fonts are, but it's I don't know. It's a different thing to me from emotional expression, and music isn't only limited to emotional expression, but I personally am interested in the emotional expression aspect of it. I have a problem with too much repetition in my melodies. I can't really give general feedback about that. You know, it's a too much repetition is definitely a bad thing because it gets boring and you don't want to keep listening to it. But also not enough repetition, and it's not memorable, right? And I'm going to talk about this a lot. I have a huge script written for my final melody video on catchiness, and it's a lot about repetition and when not to have repetition and how to keep repetition from being boring. And a lot of it, if you watch my melody video, you know, like function change, things like that, you can repeat the same melodic phrase but with different harmonic, you know, changes or different textual changes. You know, like listen to Yoda's theme by Williams, you know, or actually a great example would be Mercury. from Holst. You know, he takes that little which is like a little you know, 12 note, or I don't know how many notes it has, but a little teeny tiny little motive, and he literally repeats it over and over again for like a minute and a half, but it never gets boring because he's constantly changing the harmony and the texture and things. So that would be a great piece to check out, is Mercury by, you know, The Winged Messenger by Gustav Holst. And if you want me to, you know, I might be able to give you some subjective feedback if you want to email me that. How's it going, AIDS? I'm new on stream. Hello, Bigelow. What would you recommend? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, more melody stuff. Yeah, I would just say wait for the next melody series. I'm a 15-year-old composer. I'm not incredible, but I know a good bit of theory and stuff. What do you recommend in order to improve myself? I'm not able to take composition classes. Pretty much everything that I said at the beginning. You know, just like, I mean, you shouldn't be frustrated if you're not at the point as long as you are improving and as long as you notice yourself getting better, then that's fine. You shouldn't be like, crap, I want to get better faster than I'm getting better now. You know, as long as you're putting in the hard work and as long as you're like taking the effort to read scores and you know, and obviously there are certain preliminary skills that you need. So if your sheet music skills aren't good enough to be able to read scores, then work on the sheet music skills, right? You need to have a goal. Definitely have a goal, and you need to be always working towards that goal. And as long as you are on the way to that goal, even if you never arrive at that goal, you know, you should be satisfied with yourself. And you should write music that, you know, you enjoy. So, when you're hyperactive, smoke some weed. Try to use different cadences from your melodies. Yeah, I need to take that advice. Ever seen Vihart's video? Yes, I love Vihart. She is fantastic. I've watched all her stuff. Everybody check her out. I'm gonna grab an orange. Have you checked out Mike Verda's class? He's a great Williams impression festival. No, I'll check him out. Mike Verda. I'll write that down in my notes. How exactly does one approach score study? Kind of like I said before, just focus on one excerpt because you'll overwhelm yourself if you try to just sort of glance through the whole thing. So be like, okay, these 8 bars, I like these 8 bars. First, just listen through, right? And just sort of pull through and just listen to it and then be like, whoa, that was really cool. And then sort of pause it and sort of like draw, you know, highlight that. Then when you look at that, analyze it over and over again on different planes of view. You know, be like, okay, I'm going to look at the texture. What instruments are doubled? And then you can see like, oh, okay, this instrument is doing the same thing that instrument is doing. Okay, maybe they blend well together. Then you want to think about balance. Okay, what are the dynamic levels of everybody? Then you think about articulation. Then you think about counterpoint, and you can analyze the intervals of the counterpoint. Then you could do a harmonic analysis, right? Then you can do a structural analysis and then say, okay, now let me take this, which I now know everything about, and see how it fits in the broader context of a piece. Does this melody also exist later? And if so, does he reorchestrate it differently? What does he change? What does he keep the same? You know, so I would say try and learning really well and learning in depth a small section of music rather than just sort of like glancing over a whole score, I would say is a better approach. Yes, compose on screen. Yeah, you guys want me to compose? I just might. Upper structures explanation would be great. What are you asking about upper structures? Like, I don't know. That's a vague question. Voice in the radio. If you could clarify that question. How quickly can you compose full orchestral music? Minutes of music per hour. It depends on how creative I'm trying to be. You know, if I am writing an action theme or something and I'm kind of using cliche orchestral devices and I'm trying to meet a deadline, I'm kind of resting on my laurels, so to speak. You know, I can write really fast. I can write 8 minutes of music in a day pretty easily if I'm just sort of like plowing away. But I'm going to write something that sounds like cliche J.J. Bethune or it's going to sound like a ripoff of the Temp track. So if I have time, I like to spend as much time as possible. To me, it's not like a rush to get the piece done. It's like, let me spend as much time as I possibly can within the deadline, because the more time you mull over something, the more you get out of your instant, you know, cookie cutter box of things, and the more you start experimenting and you come up with new ideas. And then you move forward as a composer because you develop new devices for yourself. You know, you don't want to, I don't know, I should never, if you want to be a working film composer, you know, you really need to be able to compose like 2 minutes a day. Comfortably, and craft really does help with that. You know, if you can sort of pull out music from thin air, even if it's not the best music, if it serves the film and it, you need to be able to do that. But I don't know. I would focus on writing good music, not fast music, and focus on writing music all the time. Be consistent. How would you compose a voicing for 3 trombones, euphonium, and tuba? That depends on the context and the dynamic level and what else is happening, and if those are the only 3 instruments or there are other instruments, and whether or not you want it to sound muddy or pure or rich or wide, and the key. It depends on a lot of variables. Whoa! I'm scrolling and there's a... Holy crap. Ever dabble in foreign theory like Chinese, Japanese, etc.? Yeah, just a little bit. And if you listen to some of my old pieces on SoundCloud, I've written quite a few things with Japanese aesthetics and Chinese aesthetics, but there's definitely a lot. There's a whole huge thousands of years traditions to those music, and I'd love to learn more about that. But I have dabbled, yeah. Wait, what are we answering about? What was I getting? Oh. What's your favorite moment from the planets and why? Oh, I really like them all. I don't know, they're all fantastic. But I really love the chorale from Saturn. Anytime I give someone an example of the Dorian mode, that's always what I pull out, and it's really the key changes. That's a great. I really like that, but they're all great. I mean, that's just me picking one of my favorite moments. What's your single most favorite piece of music by John Williams? His violin concerto. I love his violin concerto. In fact, I'm gonna pull up just a little bit here. Hopefully you guys can hear it. I wonder. I wonder if it'll like disable the live stream if there's like a copyright issue. That'd be really funny. But no, his violin concerto is absolutely devastatingly beautiful. Ugh. And it has one of my favorite melodies of all time. It's a very tragic work. He wrote it after his wife died. Listen to this. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Anyway, I just love it because the melody, because that whole piece is very original. It doesn't have any of the, ripping off none of his concert music, well, I shouldn't say none of his concert music, but the vast majority of his concert music doesn't have any of the ripping off problems, that comes from writing temp tracks. So if you want to see like the real John Williams, check out his concert music. His cello concerto is wonderful. His horn concerto is wonderful. His harp concerto, his concertos are just lovely pieces of music. If I had to choose a film score, probably E.T. It just never gets old. Schindler's List. I also really like Catch Me If You Can. Patrick Ward, I showed some Jacob Collier to a rather close-minded violist friend. Violist, that's your problem. No, I'm kidding. Which unfortunately prompted to say, Jacob Collier is a less thing human should accomplish. What would you say to him? I wouldn't say anything. I would just give him this look. And then I would walk away. Do you have any interests beyond music that you have drawn upon when composing? Yeah, I mean, all the music that I talk about all the time obviously influences me. John Williams, Holst, Stravinsky, Radhavara lately. Eno Juhani? I'll type it in the chat. He has the most epic name of any composer. Eno Juhani, Radhavara. But oh my gosh, I love his harmonic language. I love his textures. I've really been into his stuff recently. So definitely check out that guy. And make sure we're all alive. Well, okay, cool. Fastest thing I can play? That's like a question that if I was like in a middle school youth group, like the girls would walk up and be like, "What's the fastest thing you can play?" A descending chromatic scale. I can play 64th notes at 200 BPM. How can you avoid repetition music while retaining the same things and styles? That goes along with the original question. Yeah, I kind of already answered that. I am also a songwriter as well as Howard Traveler's music theory videos. Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that, Ryan. How do you feel about Philip Glass? I like Philip Glass. Sometimes he goes on for too long doing the same thing. But I have a pretty what's the word? High tolerance for repetition. So like I love minimalism. Like Steve Reich. Like I love Steve Reich. Like I listen to music for 18 musicians before falling asleep religiously every night. But I do think I like Reich because Reich is always shifting, whereas Glass will exact repetition. But if I like what Glass composes, in other words, it's hit or miss. Because if Glass writes a progression that is really great, and then he repeats it over and over again, I don't mind the repetition because it's really great. But if he writes something and I'm like meh, then yeah, it becomes more and more meh the more you listen to it. So yeah, so I like a lot of Glass music. What's the email we can send music to? If you look at any of my videos on YouTube, if you look in the description, you'll see it. It's just jjayberthume@gmail.com. So, and also if any of you want to have like an email that gets like directly to me and doesn't like pile on to all the other emails that people send me, you can become a Patreon and then you get a different email address, and I check those every day and respond to those every day. Could you critique my music and please send me advice so I don't sound too productive? Yeah, go ahead and send it to that email, to either one, depending upon how, I also offer Skype lessons if any of you are interested. Cheers, Ricardo. You should definitely check out Mike Vierto. He's the best. Will do. I'm a confident composer, but not tech savvy. I was wanting to make a video. I'm not tech savvy either. I just learn what I need to learn in order to get a professional sound. And beyond that, although I really would like to explore more like into the synth world and electronic music world, because I think all that stuff is really fun and really exciting. But I definitely like basic sampling and mixing and mastering and Brett Inslee, who I'm staying with over the summer, he's a great mixer and master. So I could probably get him to join me for some videos about that. I've been playing and writing piano music for about 3 years. My class stream before I played drums 10 years. Nice. The stream has been quite stable. Okay, good. Do you like Alexander Desplat's music? What is your favorite score band? I do. My favorite thing that he's ever done, I was probably from a film score and they used it for this, but there's a little, I think it's from Mirrors. It's this interpretive dance and it just killed me. It brought me to tears. There's this guy, I don't really want to spoil it, but there's this guy that's basically like dancing with this little kid, which is like his younger self. But look it up. It's like it goes ba-dee-dee-da, ba-da-dee-da. It's just a really beautiful piece of music by Desplat. So yeah, I don't if I can find the actually let me just go and find the YouTube video and put it in the chat, because it's just, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Desplat interpretive dance. It's not really interpretive dance, but yeah, I found it. Okay. Oh, I love it. It's a really moving little piece of art. So there's a link for that. How do I write for piano if I'm not very good at writing? Right hand patterns confuse me a lot. Please compose and stream. Honestly, I use his 40-minute videos and I think they're shit. What's your favorite piece from the big three? Bach, Mozart. Okay, Bach. Definitely the fugue in B flat minor. Weltenberg Clavier Book 2. Bum bum ba-dum bum 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 ba bum 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 ba-dum. That's a fantastic fugue, and it's just, oh my gosh, if you want to have your mind blown, study that fugue. Glenn Gould has a great, I know he's controversial, but he has a great recording of that. I also really like the double concerto. That's actually my computer password. Funnily enough, I actually, for my passwords for everything, I just, because you know how you have like the musical typing in Logic or GarageBand? I make all my computer passwords melodies, so it's like some gibberish that has like super strong password strength that I can just type in really quickly because it's a melody. When will I release Melody Tutorial Part 3? I'm working on it. I probably should like focus on one at a time. But the reason I have a lot of videos that come out at once and then there's kind of a break and then another lot of videos that come out at once is because I'm working on all of them simultaneously. It's probably not a good idea. But I just get ideas about them and I kind of add to the script and change things and shift things and add, a piece of music that I reference and, So that's coming out as soon. I'm hoping to get like all of these basic, like my melody series and the melody competition, which I'm almost finished orchestrating that, by the way, the winning melody. I'm almost done with that, and then I'll post that soon. But yeah. So as soon as possible, I'm taking. I promise you guys, I'm not watching Netflix or even playing video games. I'm taking every spare moment I have and working on these videos. Oh, yeah, sorry, Jose, if I missed you. Yeah, if I missed any of your questions, if you see where my eyes are, you can post them again. I don't know if you answered my question earlier, but man named Miller Asbel. No, I do not. So, yeah, let me know about him. Would you consider collaborating with other composers on YouTube? Yeah, if anybody's interested, yeah. And I've collaborated with, like, Oscar Garvin. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but I've collaborated with him before. We did some Chiptune stuff a while back. That was really fun, so... sound is gone. Is anybody else having sound problem? Or can you guys all hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. I think it should be okay because nobody else said anything about it. Where was I? Is the mixing and mastering the same for video game music as for pop and rock music? Yes and no. There's a lot less squashing that happens, right? It's mainly just like compression. Like, people expect you to have a certain decibel level if you're playing something on the radio. So, and rock music tends to have a lot like the same dynamic level, the whole thing. Whereas like video game music has a lot more dynamic range. So the level of compression is different. But other than that, I mean, the principles of mixing and mastering are the same. You just have a lot more control over, I'll give you one little example. If you're orchestrating and you have like, let's say... because when you're mixing and mastering, you've got like your horizontal plane, you've got panning, and then you also have frequency range. And inevitably, you want to make sure that things that are on the same panning level are in different frequency ranges or vice versa. So if you have a bass and a piccolo, you can put them on the same pan because they're not going to conflict with each other because their frequencies are so far apart. Whereas if you have an oboe and a flute and they're doubling each other, then you want to have them panned separately from each other. But this creates interesting problems because like in a rock song, you kind of have the same instrumental lineup. Maybe horns come in or something. There's obviously exceptions, but mainly it's just like drums, bass, guitar, vocals. So you can kind of get everything just right, and then that works for the whole song and you're good, right? Whereas orchestral music, the texture changes all the time. So like I might have like first violins over here, and then I want, oboe over here, right? And then once I'm done with that particular section, then now the flute is doubling the oboe, right? So then I'll move the flute over here, and so interestingly enough, what'll happen is that I'll change the panning of instruments dynamically using automation throughout a track because you need to sort of rearrange the panning and the mixing for each new section. You don't want to do this as an instrument is playing because then it'll seem weird unless you're doing it for a specific effect. But, because, in a real live concert hall, you're getting a monophonic sound. Even if you're like in the front row, it's bouncing on the walls and the sound you're getting is already really well blended. Whereas when you listen with earphones, if you put like someone hard left pan, they're literally not hearing it in their right ear. You know what I mean? That's artificial. That's not like if a double bassist sat right next to me and played right into my left ear, I'd still be able to hear him in my right ear because the sound would bounce around and come along, right? So when you're panning these things, you have to consider that most people are going to be listening with headphones. And if you make a good mix with headphones, besides the fact that there's some reverb problems that come with headphones, as long as you account for those, you should be okay. Because you have a tendency to put more low end than you need with headphones and more reverb than you need with headphones, because you're not accounting for the sound of a room that the music is going to echo in, and also the low end that a sub will give. So as long as you try and avoid those two things, I would think if you mix 4 headphones, they're going to please a lot of people. Because, again, if you mix and master on super expensive stereo monitors, which is fine. I mean, that's what all the professionals do, and you can hear all these little details, and that's great. But like to a certain extent, like 90% of your audience is going to be listening on Apple earbuds, so you need to make sure that your mix also sounds good on Apple earbuds. And this is part of where squashing things come along because you're sort of normalizing it for every context, but don't want to go overboard. Hey, Kendrick. Yeah, no problem. Do you have perfect pitch? No, I don't have perfect pitch. And I don't think perfect pitch is necessary. There's a big conversation on Orchestration Online, which is a Facebook forum a while back, about perfect pitch. That's really a big topic, but no, I don't think perfect pitch is important at all. Perfect pitch is just like, can I get an A? It's probably not an A. We'll see. Pretty close. So if you can approximate that, then you're fine for like scene groups and stuff. It's like, oh, okay, what's the note? Because then you can relatively, once you have this note, A, E, F, D, E, E flat. Like if you can find any note if you have good relative pitch. Perfect pitch is just being able to find notes instantaneously. That's a party trick. Like it's useful if you forgot your pitch pipe and you're in a barbershop quartet, but besides that, relative pitch is where the game is at. And there are plenty of perfect pitch people who can recognize pitches, but they can't tell you what the chords are because they can't make sense of the pitches that they hear. You know what I mean? So I would say relative pitch is far more important. And there are plenty of, famous composers out there, very, very, very successful composers who have, good relative pitch, and they just don't have perfect pitch. But you should definitely have excellent relative pitch, and you should get yourself to be able to recognize harmonies and chords and try and hear individual lines. Like work on your relative pitch, but don't limit if you don't have perfect pitch. I don't think it's necessary. Favorite piece from each of them. Whoa, I click on the little scroll button and it goes like. Okay, everybody can hear it. We're good. Okay, cool. I wonder if I can like expand this. Whoa, nope. Crap. I'm trying to find where. Okay. Do perfect pitch. Thanks for the answer, but I meant what are your favorite pieces from each of them? That would take too long to go through. But yeah, if you want like a top list, that if I feel like making one, I might make a list, but like yeah, that'll just take way too long to do that. Yeah, I love to do Flight to Neverland too. Although I must say, like I love Flight to Neverland. It's a great piece, but everybody loves that piece, and I'm just not a huge fan of it. Like it's great, but it's a lot of similar to other music he's written, and I like his other music better. So it'll probably be a while before I get to that. I don't want to hate on Flight to Neverland, but I've just never been particularly enamored with that piece of music. Although I love the movie. My extended essay is on Prokofie's Classical Symphony. That's a great piece. Time consuming. Just enjoy it, Yannis. If you can be like, oh yeah, like I have an excuse to really delve into this work, and really explore it and learn from it. Even if you're writing an essay, I think just enjoy it and find the joy. Interested in collaborating? Yeah, if anybody's interested in collaborating, send me an email. Oh, cool, Bigelow. He's been to Furman University for All-State Band. Force Awakens versus other Star Wars. I love the Force Awakens soundtrack. I think it's great. I do think that it's very underrated. I don't like comparing things. Like I love Force Awakens and I also love the other Star Wars, right? I think the best Star Wars score is Phantom Menace. Obviously like the worst movie, but the best Star Wars score. I mean, there's so many great tunes from that, Bum bum ba bum bum dee da dum ba bum boom yum bum 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 boom. Right, there's Anakin's theme, gorgeous string writing. There's of course Duel of the Fates. There's ba da da dum bum 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 bum. There's just a lot of great thematic material from the Phantom Menace. So I don't know. I mean, he has written a lot of Star Wars movies. So he's he's probably getting a little tired of writing in the universe. But I really like it. I love Rey's theme. I love March of the Resistance. I love Scherzo for X-Wings. Like, it doesn't bother me when people take existing material and develop it. Like, Scherzo for X-Wings. He takes the Force theme, not the Force theme, the Star Wars theme, the main theme. Boom, bum, 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 da, 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 da. He comes up with this contrapuntal masterwork of brass writing. I love, there are tons of great moments in that soundtrack, the Jedi Steps. So I love The Force Awakens. If I had to, it wouldn't be like my favorite score, but I love it, and I'm glad that he wrote it. There's no point in saying, oh, could he have done a better job? I don't think anybody else could have done a better job. We definitely saw that with Giacchino. I was not a fan of the Rogue One soundtrack at all. Nothing against Giacchino because I love him. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not going to put them in order, but,
But I enjoyed the Force Awakens soundtrack. Voice organized experience probably fun. I'm also sad that the Funk TV orchestra sounds are gone. Would you be interested in orchestrating parts of my requiem? Yeah, sure. Just email it to me and I'll let me know what your budget is, and yeah, that goes anybody. If you have anything, any like questions not appropriate for the chat, just email me. Feel free to email me. Feature some of the music theory composition channel talked about earlier on your channel. Oh yeah, I forgot that you should do that. I mean, I forgot that you could do that. I should definitely do that. Yeah. Keith Mansfield, Brian Bennett, Alan Hamilton Miller was my band teacher. How do you feel about light motives not being used in film music as much as they used to be? It does bother me because I'm such a okay. How do you feel about light motives? So light motifs are basically themes representing characters, and really Richard Wagner pioneered that idea with his Ring Cycle and his operas. The idea of creating a piece of thematic material to accompany a place or an idea or a character. I think it's a very useful storytelling device, and I feel like it's underused nowadays, but I feel like it's twofold. I do to a certain... I don't know. I'm hesitant because everybody's like, well, most film score composers can't write tunes. Yeah, maybe to a certain extent, but I feel like there are also a lot of great film score composers out there who can write great tunes but aren't afforded the opportunity. It just depends upon the director you're working with. Some directors are much more comfortable with music than not, and I think right now the general trend is that they want your thing to be texturally driven. They want you to come up with some cool, textural... They want you to, if you write an action scene, they want it to, really make it feel more epic, or if they feel more emotional. They don't really care about you writing the next big hit tune. And if you can, try and do it. But I've had plenty of opportunities where... I'm not going to hit against the whole textual... Like, Hans Zimmer, this is the big thing. Hans Zimmer's not a real composer. Come on. Hans Zimmer, comes from a rock band. Hans Zimmer, you cannot blame him for not having all these advanced harmonic devices because he never learned all of those things, right? But from the standpoint of emotionally matching what is going on in a scene and psychologically storytelling and also textural and mixing and mastering and coming up with new sounds, Hans Zimmer is a freaking genius. I mean, Interstellar, Inception, Sherlock Holmes, these are fantastic soundtracks. They are, from a film scoring, matching what is happening on the scene standpoint, they're excellent, and they also create very listenable experiences. I just think of him as very minimalistic, and I think of him as getting a lot out of a little, right? And again, to me, it's not like Time. I love Time. Time is a very moving piece of music, and it's I don't understand composers that are so out of touch emotionally with music and they're so intellectually involved that they say, oh, it's just a 4-chord progression that's repeating, therefore it is it is non-musical. I could have written this. Well, it's no, you couldn't, because if you wrote your own chord progression, it doesn't have the same build and the same impact. It's not just the chord progression that makes that piece great. It's what he does with it, right? So, what was the original question? Oh, yeah. So I personally, this is very subjective, I like being a melodically oriented composer, and I'm kind of unhappy if I can't write a good tune. So that's why I really like writing video game music, because they're much more open to melody, but I don't think that if music doesn't have a memorable tune, that is bad music, because melody is just one small aspect of music, and there are lots of other aspects of music. So yeah, that's what I would say. Musician walks into a bar, he ends up on a sad note. As a beginner composer, what should I focus on? I've kind of already answered that. Hey guys. Someone wants to donate? How should I go about donating? If any of you, I can't refuse that. If any of you want to become a Patreon, because there are certain rewards and stuff. If you send me a message on Patreon, I'll get it and I'll respond to it instantaneously. And there are also different rewards, if you want a Skype lesson or if you want to send over a score or something. So if any of you are interested in that, feel free to do that. Victorian Gothic atmosphere on a solo piano piece. That is very specific. I don't know. I would say study Victorian Gothic piano music and transcribe it and figure out what makes it tick, and then write your own using that knowledge. What, in your opinion, is the single most overused piece of orchestral music movie soundtracks? I don't know. I don't concern myself with things that I don't like. Do you think that there's a bias against video games when it comes to melodic and or harmonic analyses? I think there's a bias against all media music when it comes to like, you know, just professors, and because they have their own conception of what music was based upon, you know, their tutelage, and video games and films are pretty new to them. You know, it's any new art form is going to take a while before people begin to take it seriously. People are taking it more and more seriously, especially like generations are passing by where it's like we've all grown up with the game music, so we all appreciate it. So I don't know, I don't lose any sleep over it. How would you recommend honing your relative pitch? Musictheory.net has some good exercises because there are lots of different aspects of music of pitch. There's like being able to recognize an interval, harmonically and melodically. There's being able to recognize a chord sonority. There's being able to recognize a horizontal progression. If you hear a chord progression, can you tell what those chords are? And that's where thinking with harmonic relativity is great. Because it's like I can listen if I think with harmonic relativity. I think in terms of CRs. It's like if I don't have perfect pitch and I don't know that the first chord is an A minor chord, but I just know that it's a minor chord, I can think of I can hear the whole progression and sort of figure out what the whole progression is in my first listening because I just translate it into CRs, and then I can take that and then, you know, either learn that it's an A minor and then just sort of plug everything into A minor, or I can use it in my own music, right? So, you know, rhythmic dictation is also really important. If you hear something, if you hear like rhythms and tuplets and things, and you know, trying to figure out how to notate them from a rhythmic perspective, that's also very, very important and not something to be neglected. And then there's like textural, you know, like can you hear whether the difference between a bass, an alto flute and a normal flute playing, you know, middle C? Can you hear the difference between an English horn and an oboe? You know, those are also very useful. So, you know, I don't know. You know, it's also a great idea once you get really advanced with your ear training to listen to a piece of orchestral music you haven't looked at the score for, and then transcribe it by ear and then compare it to the score and see how close you got. That's great because that lets you know exactly what you got wrong and what you need to work on, whether it's pitch or harmony or texture or dynamic level. Favorite mode? Says Locrian. That's funny. I already said I like them all. GG Perfume, that's funny. Yeah, perfume, bathroom, there are all kinds of wonderful ways to have fun with that last name. How do you know if a song already exists while writing? I just show it to people. I have like a few people, like 4 or 5 people that I know have a lot of music in their heads, and I just kind of show my thing to them. They're like, does this make you think of anything? And sometimes they'll point something out, but you know. And then if they haven't heard it, if they can't recognize it, then I just don't worry about it. You know, as long as you're not intentionally ripping something off. Usually, if something subconsciously is ripped off, and you know, you're gonna do something different with it anyway. But if you know that it's ripped off, yeah, you should probably avoid using it. Like the da-di-da-do-da thing from the Let's Write Music, right? I had no idea that was from another piece, but and it's like if I had written that piece and I didn't know, it probably would have been fine because what I would have done with it probably would have been a lot different from what the other composer done with it, just because I have a different style. And some people might point it out and be like, "You plagiarized," and it's like, you know. But like but if you are aware of it, then yeah, you know, you should always try and write something original. But there are a lot more combinations out there than people think, you know. Usually something just sounds familiar because it has similar emotional elements, you know. I memorize your composition so far, super hard now to play most of the playable arts. Oh, that's great. That makes me happy, Yannis. I'm thinking of booking a lesson with you. Which is the process of typical lesson? Oh, if anybody's interested in a lesson, here, I probably shouldn't like give all this information, but here's a copy and paste of here's a copy and paste of the information oh, it's way over the word limit. Holy crap. Skype lessons, just email me and ask me about Skype lessons and I'll answer it over there. But pretty much, I mean, topics can include like orchestration, part writing, counterpoint, harmony, melody writing, VST sampling, Logic Pro X. I've literally sat down and like gone through Sibelius with some people. I've sat down and gone through counterpoint. I've looked at people's music and commented on it. Sometimes they literally want to watch me compose. Like I literally will do whatever you want me to do, you know, to try and help you in the best way that I possibly can, you know. And oftentimes it's systematic, you know. Oftentimes it's like, yeah, let's go through 4-part writing, or let's learn about string writing, or let's learn about something from the ground up and kind of systematically, you know, if using a curriculum. And sometimes I won't use a curriculum. So I really like to cater, you know, and there's a lot of screen sharing used for a hands-on approach. But yeah, at this point, I just have quite a bit. I know I'm young, but I have a lot of experience with Skype lessons. I've taught over 200 people. So yeah, I just try to give whatever you guys or girls want. I love La La Land, and I don't understand why. Oh, how dare! I'm sorry. I have nothing against. Flight to Neverland. It's a great piece. It's not my favorite. I love Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is brilliant. Lord of the Rings is phenomenal. See, that's a great example of something that's like melodically and harmonically marvelous, but like texturally, it's not that innovative. It's just mostly block chords. There's nothing wrong with that. It's emotionally impactful. That's what's important, right? All these tools, and it's like you read a novel, and like that's why Dr. Seuss is great. Does Dr. Seuss use like, words in new and exciting ways, like poets or like J.R.R. Tolkien? No, but like they're masterpieces of literature for what they're trying to accomplish, right? So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, no, I love Lord of the Rings. I love La La Land. Like La La Land. La La Land has great tunes. Is it jazz? This brings me back to the concept that someone posted Mr. Funk or whatever, and someone's like, it's not funk. It's like, am I releasing this on iTunes and under the funk genre? Like, it's like, I call it Mr. Funk because it sounds funky, and I don't know. I don't sit down unless I have a reference track, like a big band track. I don't sit down and say, I'm going to write jazz or funk and let me try to be as authentic as possible. Because if you're trying to be as authentic as possible, you're just going to sound like other people, right? So like, I don't know. I don't think in terms of like genres, So I love La La Land, and yeah, is it traditional jazz? Not really. It's more like musical theater-esque, but it has great tunes, and I enjoyed listening to it, and it gave me an emotional response. So I like La La Land. 73 that Star Wars 106 was directed as though it was a musical ring composition. Yeah, I've heard that, but it's coincidental because I know for a fact that Williams has said in interviews that he had no idea that there was even going to be a second Star Wars movie when he wrote the first one. So he's been really good at retrospecting, like an Anakin's theme. He kind of plugged in Darth Vader's theme, but that's only because he already wrote Darth Vader's theme, right? So he's good at like alluding to old, like keeping a story, telling the broader story. But Williams did not know, he didn't know about all the films ahead of time and kind of plan for that musically. What's your favorite general way to practice composing music? It depends. If you're just writing a piece, then just write a piece. Get inspired and write a piece. I love looking at paintings or reading poetry. You know what I mean? Just looking at like a fantastic painting that's really moving, that can be enough to inspire me to write a piece of music. You have something you should measure your composition against. If you just sit down and say, I'm going to write a piece of music for the sake of writing something, yeah, it's the blank page is going to paralyze you and like everything you write sounds wrong. Whereas if you're inspired by music you listen to, if you're inspired by a film, or if you look at a painting or a piece of poetry or whatever, and then it's like, okay, I want to express something and I'm going to use music as a way to express that. Right, and then you're practicing your craft while you're doing that. But that's sort of like composing. Craft practice is like I'm gonna specifically write 4-part writing, and and in that case, it's kind of like you're not really trying to create something that's super emotionally impactful or like the best tune you've ever written, but you're just practicing the process of your composition, right? Excuse me, and sometimes like transcribing, if you want to get faster at Sibelius, for example, just take a piece of music that you have and just transcribe it into Sibelius, and that's something that you're practicing your Sibelius skills. What's your favorite major 7th suspended 4th chord? I don't like my favorite usage in the literature. I don't know. Yeah, Breath of the Wild's Hyrule Field theme. I am a little disappointed that there isn't more melodic stuff in Breath of the Wild, but that being said, I really enjoyed the soundtrack of Breath of the Wild. It doesn't bother me when I play it because it fits the aesthetic of the game really well. I just wish there was more music. Like I really like the Studio Ghibli kind of piano bloopy stuff, and it's really nice, and I like that, and it's very emotional, and I think it fits the open field very well. And I also think too that it makes the boss music cooler or more epic, I should say, in Breath of the Wild because there's like no music almost all the time, and then when there is music, it has more impact. So I don't know. We are accustomed to tunes from Zelda, so it is a little disappointing. But we have so many tunes. Like I don't know. I'm not gonna like complain about it. Again, I just don't see the interest in complaining. Like, you know, if you don't like something, then when you go and compose it, try and do something different than what that person did. But like if it already came out and you have no control over it, to me, just complaining doesn't do anything. It puts everybody in a bad mood and it doesn't solve any problems. So I don't know. I just don't. But yeah, I like the Breath of the Wild soundtrack. Who would you see as a successor to John Williams? Gordy Hobb, Haab. That dude is a master of Star Wars music imitation. He is amazing. Check out his stuff. Wind in the Wood composition. Yeah, I should probably just do more videos on my compositions in general because they're really easy to make. Because I'm just pulling up a Sibelius file and kind of going through my thought process. So if any of you, you know, just send me an email and I'll kind of keep a tally of what... I might be able to do like a poll or something. Ooh, I wonder if I could do a poll. Oh, wait, no, I'll do it afterwards. I'm going to create a poll and you can create a video suggestion. And then you can just select all the videos and then whatever is most popular will appear at the top. That's a great idea. I'm going to do that. I'll post it like in the comments of this video afterwards and you guys can suggest and then I'll know like what the audience wants the most. Gordon Goodwin's Rhapsody in Blue arrangement for big band. I have not heard that, so I can't give you an opinion on that, but I will check that out. Let me copy and paste that into my notes so I will listen to that later. Boop, 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 boop. Trying to make a living as a composer saying I'm really struggling now. You got to have something backup. Like you can definitely make a living as a composer. Like I'm not saying you can't, but like it takes a while. For me, Skype lessons has been the great crutch that I can sort of have a consistent income even if I don't have composition work for a particular week. So, you know, I would say, you know, humble yourself and get, there's nothing wrong with getting a job at like McDonald's or whatever. Like as long as you're able to support yourself and as long as you have extra time for composing, like you will, if you work hard, you'll be able to get to the point of making a living with composition. But it's not like something where you can get a degree and just immediately get a job after college. It's not like that. It takes a long time. And pretty much all the great composers took a long time for them to build their careers. So yeah, I would say just keep doing great work and getting better as a composer and just work on that every day. But then, you know, you're not going to be able to improve and get better as a composer if you really focus on making a living. Because if you're just focusing on doing work, you're not focusing on learning, right? Because to a certain extent, when you do work and you're trying to get it done by a deadline, you don't really have room to experiment or learn, right? You're just sort of giving knowledge rather than accepting knowledge. So I would say when you're just starting out, you can't be focused on making a living. You know, you got to find another way to do that. And then once you kind of develop competence and experience, then you can start charging. And then, you know, but yeah, I would say have a backup plan B for the meantime. You know, like you definitely can make a living in the future composing, but like for now, like, you know, in order to be able to learn composition, you can't be like, you know, obsessed with trying to, you know, support yourself because then it's just going to be miserable. What's your opinion on MuseScore? Yeah, I started with MuseScore. MuseScore is great for free stuff, you know, and especially MuseScore 2 has gotten a lot better. MuseScore is perfectly fine if you can't, you know, afford Sibelius or, like I said, I used it for years, so. I can passively play piano like block chords and left familiar. Ryan, do you know any exercises to be able to get contrapuntally? But learn a Bach fugue, like the what's the those are great for those Bach fugues. They're great for finger independence. And if you want to start with just like 2-voice counterpoint, then do like Bach conventions. But if you want to get away from like chord and melody and you want to learn contrapuntally, you know, or like the Goldberg variations, you know, so yeah, that's what I would recommend. Learn some Bach counterpoint. Okay, I will be right back. I'm gonna use the restroom. All right, where was I? Staff pad could be nice. I love Close Encounter soundtrack. That has a lot of really cool textural devices and stuff. I think that's one of his very best. It's possible to make 7-part chorales. The problem with 7, well, first off, are you talking about instrumental chorales or like singing chorales? 7-part singing, that's fine, but they can't be independent parts. It's when people use lots of divisi and choral music, they're usually just going from 4-part writing, and then when they split off, they're kind of filling in the entire chord, so you have a rich sound, which works nicely with the overtone series of voices. But 7 individual parts, people have tried to like push counterpoint, like, you know, one guy wrote like a 12-part fugue. I can't remember what his name was, but if you search for stuff like that, you can find it. But I mean, if you want individual parts, even if it's like possible, you're like literally no one is going to be able to keep track of all 7 parts unless you're like a musical savant. So I don't know. I don't really see a point to that. But if you're just talking about like adding sort of, you know, adding divisi to strengthen or enrichen chords, that's fine. But you know, you generally shouldn't do that for string writing unless you're adding new extensions onto the chord, just because strings tend to sound better with open voicing rather than if you divide them, they tend to lose power. Staff pad looks really cool. I haven't had a chance to use it. So, I mean, generally, even when it comes to like Doric, where'd my water bottle go? Oh, generally speaking, Sibelius and Finale are pretty much the industry standard as far as like engraving is concerned. So you could use other programs, but once you start getting into advanced stuff, like your state of bed is gonna be with either of those. At least for now, just because they've been around for so long. Have you ever accidentally written a melody that already existed? Not that I know of. I've written things that sound somewhat similar, and if someone could point something out, go for it. But I've never like, I don't know, because I tend to have a pretty good musical memory. Like, I very rarely, if I write something that sounds familiar and I show it to someone else, 9 times out of 10, if they find something else, it's something that I haven't heard before, but it just sounds familiar to me. I don't know if that's because like other people copied that music and then I heard those other people or what, but generally when I hear a piece of music, I really digest it. I don't just leisurely listen to music. Like if I listen to a piece of music, I'll listen to it over and over again to the point that it's really inside of me. So if I am being influenced, like if I write a piece of, if I write a melody or something and it's kind of getting along the lines of something, you know, it's not like I'm gonna forget this piece of music I've listened to in the past, unless I've only like heard it once. But if that makes any sense, so like when I can pretty easily look at a melody and then know what it's from or what it sounds similar to. I can point out like, oh, it's from bar 34 of this particular piece or whatever. Maybe not down to the bar number, but I have a pretty good musical memory. So, to my knowledge, I haven't like exactly ripped something off. What kind of prompts are a good way to practice first? Sometimes because we write 10-second jingles a day, prompts challenge me to improve more. Yeah, I would just say when I started out, it was just trying to get as many different genres as possible. Like when I started putting music on SoundCloud and YouTube, it was like, let me write a forest theme. It's kind of like I looked into the Zelda soundtracks and the Mario soundtracks that I loved, and I was seeing if I can try and find a piece of music that I haven't written something in that style in, and then I write something in that style. So that's kind of what I did. And then once I got to the point of I feel like I kind of exhausted, almost every genre in terms of like just dabbling in it, then I started to focus on improving, in a particular genre rather than just focusing on versatility. So yeah, if you want to be a game composer, versatility is really important. So just pull up a soundtrack and just kind of rewrite the entire soundtrack, and don't rip it off, by any stretch of the imagination, but write something totally new. But that if they had asked you to compose that soundtrack rather than the person that they did, what would you have written? And then of course you can give it a name and you can use it as your portfolio piece. And very few people are going to make the connection between that and the original soundtrack. So that's what I would say. I love Up by Michael Giacchino. That's great. Although it kind of rips off a theme from... if I can remember that, I'll put it in the comments. But he kind of ripped that off from another composer. Pretty exactly. The melody. Dee-dee-dee-doo. But I still love Up. I think it's great. I didn't like Rogue One. I don't want to get into... Again, I don't like expending energy complaining about things, but I didn't like it. Oh, Jacob Collier has hugely influenced me. I mean, I just love the way that he thinks about music in general. I love how he's so emotionally oriented. You know, I love how he's such a well-rounded musician. Like, you know, you listen to so many composers and it's like their harmony and their melody is great, but then the rhythmic stuff is not particularly interesting, or vice versa. But like with him, like his rhythmic devices, he's innovating in every aspect of music. So yeah, so I really enjoy, and his music just takes me a long while to digest. Again, the challenge, you know, because you get pretty good at transcription and you listen to music and you can kind of figure out what it does, but like I have to listen to his music, you know, on repeat and actually in order to figure out like it's one of the few composers that I have to like listen to over and over again to figure out what on earth he is doing, just because of the complexity of music. But again, I love how it's like it's so complex, but yet anyone can listen to it and enjoy it because it's all done for the purpose of creating an emotional response, which is great. You know, like you listen to the you know you know, you listen to like his drum beats that are like within 7 divisions, like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and it's like you don't have to know that there are 7 divisions in each quarter note, and you don't have to hear that in order to feel and be affected by the swing of that beat, which I think is great. I think it's, you know, I think he's just heading in the right direction musically. All right, my voice is beginning to die, so we might have to have another live stream at another time. But let's see. You put together your own sample libraries for virtual instruments. Yes, I have. In fact, it didn't turn out. It was just mainly for practice. Like I sampled a glockenspiel and I did a sampling that had like, you know, random noises like that. Pretty. He just it wasn't bad. He's a great computer, the acoustic grabbing. Yeah, I mean it wasn't bad in some cases, but in some cases I think it was bad. Like the main theme, like boom beam da 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 bum bum beam bum. Like, come on, like I respect you trying to do your own thing with the theme, but like it was just so awkward and so cheesy and so they're I don't know. He just had to write it really quickly. So you know, I love Giacchino. He's written a lot of stuff that I love, but me personally, I think it's it's not like it's just an adequate soundtrack, but like moments of it stick out to me as bad. Like even like Me and My Little Brother, who by the way is Epic Sloth, Elijah Berthoum. If you're wondering who Epic Sloth is, who tries to comment first on all my videos, that's my little brother, Elijah. But anyway, but we looked at each other in the theater and we're just like, you know, what? Like, come on, Giacchino, what was that? Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, Ashton. Yeah, no, it served its function. Like, it's people have high expectations for Star Wars just because it's so known for the music. Yeah, and again, you know, that's why I say, like, I'm not gonna shove my opinion down anybody's throats. It's not like if you like Rogue One, then it's like, yeah, you're not my friend anymore. Like, cool, you like Rogue One. That's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like, you know, again, that's where the whole complaining thing is. You know, I just don't see the point in. I like to talk about things that I like. I don't like to talk about things that I don't like. But anyway, so yeah, I think that'll probably about okay, I'll answer this last question by Tom, and then that'll wrap it up for this stream. And I'll definitely do a composing on screen. I'll definitely do a composing on screen live stream at some point in the future. I'll figure out how to do that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. It's amazing how many people joined. It's been really lively. I really appreciate all your questions. 2 hours passed by so quickly. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. What's the craziest thing you found in Bach's music? That B flat minor fugue I was talking about, at the end he takes the theme and plays it in thirds ascending, and then plays it in canon descending, so inverted, also in thirds but in displaced imitatively, and it works contrapuntally, and it's so, oh my gosh, I gotta show you this is the last little thing. Bach and Gold plays it fast too. B flat minor fugue, Gold, yeah. So that's the subject, and then listen to this frickin' ending. You'll hear it when it comes. Right here. Do you hear that? He takes the theme and plays it, and then plays it in thirds, and then again in thirds, descending, inverted, imitatively in canon, and it works contrapuntally. Like, did he plan that when he was writing it, or did he just like see that was possible? Like, oh my gosh, Bach is nuts. But sorry, I'll answer. I like Jay Bocook. What his name is? Oh yeah, Bocook. Yes. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks everybody so much for joining me. It has been a true pleasure. Again, thanks for all the subscriptions. It's great to have such a kind and friendly base of subscribers. So I will see you guys and gals later.